What is going on, all of my YouTube friends and family? Liam Murphy back today, going to rip a draft in moments. And I thought we would let the randomizer wheel choose what I'm drafting today. So let's see what's going on here. Either going to be ripping a drafters championship, a BBM5, a marathon, or DraftKings, and it's looking like drafters is the winner today. That's a fun way to mix things up. All right, this is perfect. We are in the drafters championship after we drafted after we spun the randomizer there. If you're not up and running on drafters, you can use promo code ChessLiam for a $100 deposit max. And as a bonus, my most recent article was breaking down the top scoring teams the past 2 years in this contest. Went over things. You can find that here. You can find that, what we went over things such as like what were the most common builds. We dove into what the top 10 was doing. I showed you the top 10 teams the past 2 years. I looked at how those teams invested, like how many were 2 QB, how many were 3 QB, how many were 2 tight end, how many were 3 tight end. I gave some context there. I showed you how many players, because a big question for total points contest and a bit different than a playoff week contest is, do you have to have certain guys to win? The answer is almost certainly. Went into that for each year and gave some opinions at the end here. For those who do subscribe to beatbestball.com, that is $99 for the year. Get you all my rankings, all my articles. I just updated my DraftKings rankings earlier today, and I moved my rankings recently. They're now pages at the top of the page. I'm also going to have a new article coming out tomorrow. Honestly, I have like 3 articles half written, so really I could finish any of them. It's kind of just how I work. I dive deep on a subject, and then randomly I start working on another subject. So going to be pushing out a lot there. Let's let my Discord know as well. How do I invite? I think you can do that. I don't know. Live in the drafters. Let's do that. We do need 6 more people here. You just joined the drafters with me. Good luck. Gonna have a happy hour beer or two. Why not? Drink responsibly. Drinking a Kona longboard. Those in Florida are probably familiar with them. Drafters is PPR, 20 rounds, and total points, meaning weeks 1 through 17. There is the presidential debate tonight. I don't think I'll be watching. Dark Side says he's hanging with me instead of the debate. I don't even know what time it's at. Cheers. Cheers to you. Do need 5 more to kick this draft off. You're drinking a Kona Big Wave? Hey. I have the longboard variety. Cheers. Cheers, friends. If you like these free streams, I'd recommend you do a couple things. 1, join my Discord in the link below. I always notify when I'm going live. And then 2, please do click the like and subscribe button. I am closing in on 5,000 subscribers. Come a long way. We've come a long way on this channel. And we're not even there. We're not even halfway there. We don't have little sound effects. Discord free. Discord's 100% free. Yep. We don't have. I've done no video editing, no player clips or anything like that. You know, I could dice up some clips of me being like, you should draft Kyron Williams last year, which I talked about a lot. I've drafted 69. On that, I want to bring something up. I was drafting yesterday. I drafted my 69th Best Ball Mania. And something I noticed in my 69th BBM5, which I did not know that at the time. I did not know I was doing my 69th, is I was drafting from the 104. And what I noticed is the thing about drafting from the 104 is you get both pick 69, nice, and 16.9. And then that was my 69th BBM5 team. So, I mean, that obviously the team of fate. I also got the 104, meaning I got Jamar Chase, who is the reason I won BBM2. And so, of course, I had to tack on Mike Gesicki, a guy who I don't think I've drafted once this year. But Mike Gesicki was part of the winning squad. So, how much was taxed on your $2.5 million? Does Underdog tax you? Well, let's debrief this. I've won 3 best ball contests, totaling 1.3 million in earnings. BBM2 was $1,001,001. So I've not won 2.5 million. That would be nice. Second off, you pay taxes to government, right? So you don't. Underdog is not a government. You don't pay taxes to them, and sites do not withhold taxes for you. That's your responsibility as a citizen of your government, right? So not financial advice, but no, I paid a lot in taxes, obviously. Numerology? Hey, Pat, you get it. Looks like we filled this bad boy. But while we wait, give me a number 1 through 10. I got some nice early teams. And let me know. Did you know Liam Murphy made it to the Olympic trial finals for track? Let's go. I look up my name on YouTube sometimes, just trying to look up my channel. Because I don't have my YouTube account associated with this YouTube on my phone. I just have like the one I watch videos myself on. 4. Pepper Tony gave us 4. And one of my better teams. It's Hurts and Daniels, Gibbs, Rashad White, Jerome Ford, Marshawn Lloyd, Braylon Allen, Isaac Gerendo, AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Hollywood Brown, Keon Coleman, Josh Downs, Malachi Corley, Jermaine Burton, Jalen McMillan, Luke McCaffrey, Darius Slayton, George Kittle, Brock Bowers. So I was all over drafters day one, taking advantage of some unique ADPs. I think what's my favorite one? That's definitely one of my favorites. That might be my favorite one. Hurts and Daniels, so high upside QBs. 2 anchor running backs plus some great mid-range guys. Isaac Gerendo, obviously a pure dart. Could be a nothing, but even without it, we're strong enough at running back, hopefully. Braylon Allen, who's been steamed up. So you can see someone like me, one of my articles is on that's going to come out tomorrow is on my favorite late round upside plays. And I'm someone who like don't draft a 0, don't draft a 0. All these people saying that. What does that even mean? Anyone in the 18th round could be a 0. So I swing for upside. So I was in on Braylon Allen from day one. He's now been steamed up. AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Hollywood Brown, Keon Coleman, Josh Downs, Corley, Burton, McMillan, Luke McCaffrey, Slayton. So a great wide receiver room here. And then 2 high upside tight ends as well to boot. So really like this team. Think it could be the winner, honestly. We pulled the 107 for our 70th. The nice thing about drafters, if you don't know about drafters, is it almost certainly will overlay. What does overlay mean? Overlay means the contest doesn't fill. And so it means you're competing against less people. And let's do some quick math for you. Drafters is at Drafters is at 12% full. BBM5 is at 30% full. So honestly, that's actually a decent fill rate for drafters. But you have a lot of people like me who are already at 70, 100, 80 here from Spartan, 60 for Johnny, 70 for me. Stacks and Fuego doing this first one. So you're going to have to drop off. Rooms won't fill. Let's go Anchor Bijan. Wow. AJ Brown has even tied Breece Hall in ADP on drafters. Drafters doing its own thing with ADP. Can you take the prize money over 2 to 3 years? I don't think it works like that. And you would never want to do that. Like when you hear about like lottery payments being paid out over multiple years, that's because the operators are forcing that. I mean, obviously, if you're going to lose $1 million in a year, you would prefer to defer it. But aside from that, you're better off investing, etc. How many people typically split the first prize winnings? One person wins. So overlay good for us, but drafters will die if it keeps doing that. I disagree. I think drafters is a business that, much like Underdog, much like DraftKings, realizes the real upside is sports betting. Absolutely no one out there is trying to be an only best ball company. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should launch an only best ball company. Probably not. Sounds like a lot of work, right? And I can't draft anymore then. But best ball, just think about it. You can rake it once per year. The rake is what the company takes from the entrance. No one's trying to do that. Everyone's trying to use best ball to grow people on their platform. So drafters doesn't care if they eat 10% overlay, 20% overlay. It's all about growth. That's my opinion. Is all drafters draft full point PPR? Yes, all drafters draft is full point. You can use promo code Cheslium for a $100 deposit match. You could use that on under. I don't even bother because I assume most people are up and running there. Let's go Ayuk. I love Ayuk. Ayuk 1,300 yards on the team that was either the league lowest or near the league lowest in pass attempts. I think Ayuk is very good. Like an AJ Brown level of good almost. The 49ers could be a little bit worse on defense, so they have to pass more. Will you publish drafters rankings? Yeah, I'll have them out next week. From my lips to God's ear. Next week, they're coming. They're going to be the same rankings I use for Underdog and DraftKings. I'm using one ranking system. I'm not going to have multiple rankings. And what I recommend, like on DraftKings, the DraftKings ADP is really soft. So I write about this on my rankings, but you should almost never strictly draft off of the rankings. You can. But for example, Brian Thomas Jr. on DraftKings goes like in the 80s occasionally. So does Rome Odunze. These are two guys I really like and I think are great picks. But I will gamble them on DraftKings when their ADP is so bizarre because I want to try to get them at the fallen ADP value. So you think Ayuk gets traded? No, I don't think Ayuk gets traded. I think that's not happening. You ever win anything big on weekly winners? No. And I haven't done any weekly winners. It's just not the most appealing thing to me. Brian Thomas Jr. is 87 ADP on DK. Yeah. That's like free. Makes no sense. I have him ranked around the 60s. Yeah, DJ Moore. He's a guy I think if you do projections, you struggle a little bit more with. But I'm personally of the mindset that the Bears could be elite from day one. I'm willing to roll that die that Caleb Williams can be around 4,000 yards, that he can be around 30 touchdowns. DJ Moore produced with Justin Fields, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Now he gets Caleb Williams. Did you see that Chubb could be ready for week 1? Let's go into that. Remind me of the injury guy's name. Because I saw that recently. Can we find your position rankings anymore? I mean, you can just go into my ranks, but I can break them out a little bit more into tiers because I do have tiers in my mind. Not this dude. Don't listen to this guy. That's just an opinion. I don't know. A lot of people clown on him though. All right, here we go. Jeff Mueller, physical therapist. We got Nick Chubb doing some workout stuff, and Jeff says, who, I don't know. I follow Jeff, I think. Nope, I don't. I do now. But I do know Jeff's a 49ers fan. Seems to have some biased takes there. And I don't know. I'm assuming he knows more about medical stuff than me. He said Nick Chubb is 7 months, 13 days out of his ACL. He has around 2 months to keep training before week 1. This is great progress, working single leg stability and dynamic control. If an athlete regains dynamic stability and changes direction, acceleration to deceleration, production seems to follow. Brain knowing where limb is when in space, blah, blah, blah. If he did actually have an ACL repair and not reconstruction, his timeline bumps up by months. Think Zach Ertz repair versus reconstruction, December to August. Let's go Hurts. I like Amari Cooper too, but I mean, getting the QB1 at a 4th round price, possibly. QB1 will probably be Hurts or Allen in most seasons. Seems fine. Hurts was the guy you had to have 2 years ago when it was going in the 6th round. 4th versus 6th, close enough. Anyways. So he goes, so yes, there's actually a decent chance he is active week 1, which would allow him to return closer to full form in football activities mid-season versus a mid-season return that would lead to return to form closer to December. He said Kevin Stefanski did recently hint that Chubb was making very good progress. He goes on to say, this is more of a maybe he does return sooner than we expect. Not sure how good it is for fantasy, given we know he has minimal receiving upside. But he could give us a 2023 Gus Edwards type season. It's on the radar now. And now he tagged this guy. So I don't know. I've not been drafting Chubb. What that doctor is basically saying, physical therapist, whatever he is that he thinks it's possible that Chubb will be active, which means that maybe he'll be 100% by the middle of the season. I think even if that happens, you could see a 3 and maybe even 4-headed backfield, depending on what Nyheim Hines is doing. You have a guy who's old, has a lot of career touches, never was a pass catcher, always got there as an electric runner, which he was, right? So I don't know. Like, maybe I should be mixing them in a little bit. I think it's a little egregious that Chris Godwin is doing this huge of rise. Let's shoot for upside here. Let's go Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts could be the tight end one. So yeah, I mean, look, you got D'Onta Foreman, who's always been an efficient runner. You've got Jerome Ford, who was very explosive last year, right? He had some bad games. I just don't really see the league winning upside of Chubb. he's getting to the point where, like, okay, I took him for the first time yesterday when the next running back to go was Tyler Algier. So I would take Jalen Wright over him because Jalen Wright has upside. I would take Ray Davis over him because Ray Davis has upside. I would take Marshawn Lloyd over him because Marshawn Lloyd has upside. Like, there's still upside bets you can make. Yes, it might not be as good as Chubb's upside, but like, what is Chubb's upside? His one healthy game, 18 attempts, 160 rushing yards. Actually had 4 receptions that game. No touchdowns. So you give him a touchdown. What's his upside? 25 points? And again, off of this major injury, I just don't see them being like, okay, you're healthy. Here's 20 carries a game. You know? I see the stash is coming out to play. Yeah, I think I'm gonna shave soon though. I'm going to this upcoming weekend. I'm going to Ireland with my whole extended family and girlfriend. Gonna be gone for 2 weeks. So first, I'm Irish. May shock you. The name Liam Murphy. We're staying in our like ancestors' home. I am gonna bring my laptop, and obviously I can't draft from Ireland. I think. I don't know. Maybe I can do DraftKings. I know you can do it in the UK. But what I can do is I can invite people on to do more of a podcast, pick their brain type thing where we discuss things. And I will be still updating ranks and producing articles. I'll be writing at night. So going to Ireland for 2 weeks and then coming back. And we're going to be close to August by then, I think Cleveland will just run the ball a lot. Yeah, I mean, look, I like taking the Browns running backs. I just take Deontay Foreman and Jerome Ford. Let's scroll up before we make a mistake here. Let's go Rome. No, let's not do Rome because we have DJ Moore. Let's do Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr.'s ADP is 79, so like, yeah, I'm probably gonna get him a decent clip of the time there, but I don't care. And in general, but also, even more so for total points, you really shouldn't care too much about reaching for ADP because if you have a unique combination of players, it just makes it that much easier to win. If Chubb ends up seeing first team reps in the preseason, where would you draft him? 101 because he's a witch if he's playing the preseason. It's not happening, man. This dude had his ACL seemed like our doctor friend did not know, either reconstructed or repaired. Obviously, the reconstructed is worse in November. Yeah, Ingram, not a huge touchdown threat. And Brian Thomas Jr. could have 10 touchdowns, all of the deep variety, just kind of walking into the Calvin Ridley role. Do people forget Bro's leg snapped in half? Yeah, I mean, and again, this is June, right? So my mindset is, okay, let's say all this positive buzz of Chubb happens. I'm going to be able to adapt. Seems like a pretty great price here on Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, I thought was draftable in the 6th. Obviously, running back as a whole is getting pushed down right now, right? Josh Jacobs slid around. Joe Mixon, James Cook, Rachaad White have fallen a bit. And that's causing Kamara and Walker to fall as well. But I quite like Walker in the 7th. I see no reason not to roll the dice on him. I'm still going to do streams, brother. I'm still going to do streams, Dr. Dargo. In total points, you're looking for total season success over like late season boom, right? Like a Trey Benson would be more of a late season boom, right? Well, I don't know because I would say I think you can get into a little bit of a trap thinking that way because why can't Trey Benson see 10 carries week 1? He was a top of the 3rd round rookie. That's essentially like a second. Like my mindset of running back prices of a whole is any running back in the 2020s going forward, you can just subtract a round from their cost of what they would have been 10 years ago. So Trey Benson is going in the 2nd round or maybe even the 1st round a decade ago, right? Teams have just gotten hipper to this. But yeah, in general, yes, you need production starting from day 1, right? And also, like, I mean, James Conner can roll an ankle week 1, right? Like things happen. That one running back almost certainly will get hurt, and so one backup will be required. Last year and the year before, actually, there were so many running back hits in the late rounds that you really didn't need to have an exact one other than Kyren Williams last year. Favorite build on drafters? I touched on that in that free article. But yeah, you got to get wide receiver firepower, right? Like I have 2 running backs through the 7th round. I also took a detour for an elite QB and a hopefully elite tight end. Wide receivers now dried up a bit, so that's tough. But at least have 3 that I feel pretty decent with to kind of anchor my 3 starting spots. And obviously, I'm going volume at wideout, and with the Bijan Walker start, I'm probably always stopping at 5, depending how we build going forward. Yeah, I like rolling the dice on Curtis Samuel. I think Curtis Samuel is good at football. I think Curtis Samuel's always played with bad quarterbacks. Curtis Samuel has familiarity with Joe Brady. Keon Coleman is a big question mark where I draft Keon Coleman sometimes, but again, major downside potential. And Curtis Samuel's in the prime of his life, 28 years old. Going Mahomes and then Stroud, I think it's fine because he got a pretty big discount on Stroud. But yes, in general, you're going to want to wait on your QB when you're going elite. Curtis Samuel's a cheap wideout one. I mean, maybe, right? Like, I draft a lot of him, but it could be Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir really popped in ESPN analytics. It could be Keon Coleman. It's not impossible that Chase Claypool is back from the dead. I have not been drafting like that, but it is possible. Discount on Stroud. He got him at ADP. Well, you have to keep in mind that Stroud was a 6th round pick most of the draft cycle, and now he has fallen to the 7th. But Stroud was going in the 60s for most of these contests to date. I think what's happening, and I kind of wanted to study this a little bit, but my opinion of what's happening, being a longtime best baller, is June and the beginning of July, I think you could argue, are maybe the sharpest. Other than, wow, I mean, I'm not really a big Cortland Sutton guy, but when he's going to fall to the hundreds with an ADP of 90, and I need wide receiver on this team, see no reason not to roll the dice at that point. But my opinion is June and early July are probably the sharpest months. And so you're going to see weird things like QB ADPs falling, running back ADPs falling, and then, you know, aside from July 4th weekend, which will be a donkey fest of like drunkenness, but, you know, as I drink a beer, ripping a draft here, but late July, August, I think that's when we start to see these things go back, where Stroud will go back up now. People will just start taking Dak Prescott in the 6th round because they feel like it, you know. So I think a little bit of that's happening right now. I understand the correlation between QB wideout, but in this format, I have no issue taking elite QB unstacked. It depends who. Like Hurts, I don't care if I take Hurts unstacked. Allen, I think you could say as well, because both of them have rushing equity by the goal line. But the bigger, like with Allen, there's so many cheap stacking options that it seems kind of bad to take Allen and not at least get Khalil Shakir. You know, like why not? Like obviously this guy didn't, but he at least has James Cook, so he has some correlation. He built 2 QB heavy, 2 running back heavy at all to win, in my opinion, but so be it. But Hurts, yeah, I think like I don't have Hurts stacked with anyone. I will take Dallas Goedert if he's there, maybe. Like I might push him around, but I might take him here in round 10 because I can get the stack. But I don't feel like it's a requirement because AJ Brown's really expensive, Devonta Smith is really expensive, and our main thesis with Hurts is give us the goal line rushing touchdowns, which I mean maybe don't happen this year without Jason Kelce. Maybe they don't do the tush push as much. Maybe they put Saquon in that role. Hurts has been banged up. Goddard goes, and it's like, okay, who cares? You know? All right, let's take Cooks. Cooks plays in the same division as Hurts, so we're going to get 2 correlated games there. Cooks wins deep. And honestly, not too bad of a wideout room for starting with Bijan in the first and grabbing Walker in the 7th, and also grabbing a QB and tight end in the 4th and 5th. Where our wideout room is Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Brian Thomas Jr., Curtis Samuel, Cortland Sutton, and Brandon Cooks. Hurts at QB, Pitts at tight end, Bijan and Walker at running back. When do you think noobs will begin drafting to prep for the redraft leagues? Late August. Jerome Ford is a guy I like, but I have a lot of Jerome Ford in the 130s. So I'm going to have to think about, do I want to chase him up in price? You can win with that wide receiver core for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good enough. If everyone hits, right? Like if Brian Thomas is a smash, if Sutton is serviceable, if Cooks gives me, 4 to 5 20-point games. Again, this is drafters, total points. Promo code Chesley, and we'll get you up and running here. We spun a wheel. Not many of you were here then, but I spun a wheel to see what kind of draft I'd be doing today. Might even do another draft after this. I don't know what this is asking. Do you ever go into a draft with a plan like, okay, if it's there, I'm going to go 2 running backs early, then stacking wide receiver, or do you just look at value during the draft? Rigged wheel. Murray is like, Murray, brother, do you work for DraftKings or Underdog? Because I gotta know. You've been pushing the rigged wheel narrative. Yeah, I think Purdy is a slam dunk here. Purdy, I really like. Again, I think they could pass more. He correlates with Ayuk. No reason not to take another high upside quarterback when I'm going to get him a full round discounted. I take Purdy in the hundreds at times, like on DraftKings where quarterbacks can be weird. And yeah, like, okay, he was crazy efficient, yada, yada, but he gave you some spikes, 26, 26, 29, 25. And again, you kind of just hope that they don't run the ball quite as much. They let Purdy do more year 2. Maybe he even has better weapons with guys like Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowling. And he could just smash. Like and subscribe for another draft. Yeah, Pepper Tony's got it. Let's see. I need to see Oh, the 50K Players Championships on? I have been watching that, so. I don't know why I have to do this to find my own thing. So isn't it wild that YouTube serves me up ads on my own video? Come on now. We're at 30 likes. I'll make it 31. I want to see this at 100. 100 likes. And we'll rip another. And I might do another one anyways. Thoughts on Taysom Hill on drafters? His ADP is 147 now. I like Taysom. Extreme single week upside. I think you could even justify drafting him over Pat Freiermuth and co. Yeah, so this is the time to definitely grab a running back. I like Gus. I like Zeke. I don't really know why Gus's ADP is falling so much. We're going to go with Gus this time. Zeke is nice because he would have correlated with Hurts. He would have correlated with Cooks. But I really do want a piece of this Chargers team. And I think Gus is just falling because he's not practicing at this current second, which I don't really care about that as long as he is by training camp. And like that's what the market's going to do. It's going to do illogical fear for that. Off-brand question, what's your chess elo? Really depends depends if you're a chess person or not, but like more beginner people ask what's your elo, and they don't really understand that there's over-the-board ratings, there's the USCF over-the-board rating, there's your FIDE rating, there is chess.com, there's chess.com Blitz, there's chess.com Rapid, there is Lichess Blitz, there's Lichess Rapid, so I usually give the answer around 2,000, but then people who are like 300 points weaker than me will be like, I'm around there too. But they're telling me their rapid rating, which is like inflated. My rapid rating on like Lichess is like 2,300. My USCF rating is close to 1,900. My FIDE rating is close to 2,100. You don't have YouTube Premium? I do on my I don't watch YouTube videos on this YouTube that I stream from. Let's see here. Sure. I like Ray Davis. There's another guy I like who I'm hoping I can scoop next round, but Ray Davis, a serviceable RB4, hopefully the goal line back. Latavius Murray got serious run with the Bills last year. Do you do any season-long betting? Not much, but I mean, I live in Florida, so previously you couldn't sports bet at all, and now you can't. You can only bet with the monopoly of the Florida Seminoles, which really, unfortunately, Florida, because we have a terrible governor, gave the Seminoles the monopoly until like 2051 on sports betting. It's just egregious. Obviously, like, can you imagine if you could only do best ball on DraftKings because the government said so? Terrible, you know? Doing any FFPC stuff at all? Yeah, I'll do a couple main events. I do a couple best balls. Obviously, me and the owner of the FFPC had that stream last year, so I don't stream a lot over there. I also don't think it's the most relatable. I don't think a lot of people are on there. They're a smaller site. We're at 50 likes. Come on, team. We can do it. With Pitts, I view him as a, even though, you know, with him being healthy potentially, he could be more consistent. I still view him as a better. Nick Chubb goes pick 159, by the way. After Jaleel McLaughlin, after Ray Davis, after Kamani Vidal, after Rico Dowdle, after Ty. Wow, really happy. Jalen Wright and Ray Davis are two guys whose ADPs are like flipped on other sites. And so I like them both pretty equally, but I took Ray ahead of Wright due to Ray's ADP being higher on drafters. But I like both as upside swings. Wright is definitely drawing a little bit more live to be a zero, but he's the biggest back in Miami. He's part of Miami, so that's upside by default. I am, you know, as a Bills fan, I am I saw some 16-1 odds for the Bills. My personal opinion is this is a better Bills team than last year's Bills team. So I am tempted to sprinkle a little bit money on Bills to win the Super Bowl. At 16-1, that's a steal. They were 10-1 last year, and again, I think this team is better. Especially on offense, I think they could be better because Diggs was the alpha, and then no one, you know, Gabe Davis was Gabe Davis. And Diggs was hurt, I think, and that's why he slowed. But now you got this kind of like point guard offense where you don't really know who's getting the ball. A couple of them are bowling balls. Keon Coleman, a big dude. Kincaid, a big dude. Shakir and Samuel doing their thing. They're all going to be selfless. They're all going to block for each other. Could be pretty good. And they got rid of some bad defenders who were just injured. Tyler Algier would be fine, but not something I'm going to do having Bijan probably. Let's go Conklin. I quite like Conklin. He has some downside if Jeremy Ruckert or their, I'm just going to call him Zach, was his last name, is like a borderline slur that I always mispronounce. But this athletic tight end Zach they drafted last year could develop a little bit more. But, you know, been a target machine. Now he's getting you guys gotta stop with the Claypool thing. Let's see. I tweeted this out the other day. This isn't a drafters draft I did the other day. This guy goes Allen, Ridley, Coleman, Kamara, all totally normal, and then boom, Chase Claypool. And my assumption is that he like cued a bunch of the Bills guys to be like, okay, don't forget these guys. And I really don't recommend you do that, guys. It's just major downside and minimal upside. All right, we got 5 more picks to play with. We're done at 2 QB. We're penciling in for tight end. Gives us 4 more picks to play with. Yeah, I see no reason not to roll the dice on Likely. I think Likely could just outright play without contingent upside. You get to bet a little bit against Mark Andrews' health recovery after getting tightrope surgery. No, I'm not talking about Luke Musgrave. I'm talking about Jesus. I got caps on. Okay, I'm talking about Zach. Zach K. That's the athletic tight end the Jets drafted. Michael Penix also got me in trouble a little bit. But yeah, this Jeremy Ruckert guy, he got a little bit of run. The Jets are like kind of annoying to predict right now because I do think they offer upside, but like, what's Mike Williams' status? What's up with Malachi Corley? Xavier Gibson feels like he could get some run. Jason Brownlee is a maybe. Alan Lazard is Rodgers' guy. I think Tyler Conklin's the tight end you want, but would it really wouldn't be surprising for one of these more athletic guys to come out? So. Why would Otto Claypool before Shakir Samuel? That's a good question. Maybe because he was going like backwards up, or maybe he was just trying to star some like late round guys. I don't know, man. He drafted a 100% normally from there on out, though. All right, let's go Slayton. I think Slayton's a nice guy to layer in on Hurts teams because plays in the same division. So I'm going to get 2 games of Slayton versus Hurts, assuming he's not benched for Hyatt. I was just pronouncing it Peen and not Pen. And so, yeah. What about Kobe Parkinson as a late pick tight end? I don't know, man. I'm not a believer that Kobe Parkinson's going to break out here. He could. I read this on stream the other week, but why is okay? I can't find it, but basically, I'm not a huge believer that like 600 career yards, Colby Parkinson's going to break out. I don't even think it's a lock that he's ahead of Davis Allen. Someone said they just realized I'm streaming. Let's let the people know. Let's let the people know in the chat. This is marketing 101. We're live, folks. Marketing 101, baby. Always got to add extra Y's there. All right. I don't know how many likes I got on my YouTube video, but I'll rip another one after this. Spin the wheel again. Yeah, let's just live with 5 running backs. Let's go Malik Washington. He made the cut for my article of potential high upside plays. Could be behind Odell Beckham Jr. But if Tyreek or Waddle get hurt, and I do prefer Jonnu Smith as like the third option in a healthy year over Malik and Odell. But I think they offer upside where, yes, wide receiver is a talent-based position, but maybe he's good. Cullen, brother, we're going to spin the wheel, so no guarantee I'm on drafters. Chat in the draft lobby is my number one request for Underdog. I know. Would be some good times. Every site should have chat. Maybe we can riot just hold a public riot to get Underdog to release the chat. There's like 4 to 5 tight ends better than Parkinson at the end, in my opinion. Yeah, I like several above him. Underdog chat would be too toxic. Can you imagine though? Like, you effing idiot, you took that unstacked. I think it would be bad for the game because, like, maybe one of those effing idiots would be like, "Damn, bro, you're right. What am I doing?" Okay, so the real question for this team is: do we go 10 wide receivers or do we go 9 and tack on a 6th running back? Ayuk, Moore, Thomas, Samuel, Sutton, Cook, Slayton, Washington, Bijan, Walker, Edwards, Ray, Wright. All right, let's do it. Let's take Will Shipley. One of my favorite late round picks, correlates with Hurts, leveraging Barkley. Fits the bill as a high upside play. Don't tap the glass. Breakout year for Ian Thomas incoming? No. Probably not, man. Probably not. Okay. We need a wideout that's going to win us it all. Chase Claypool. I've not been taking Claypool, but if we do get significant buzz come training camp, I'm open to it. I refuse to be buried by him. I don't think it's likely. You got 25K in guarantees. Not good. Are you in any redraft home leagues? I am the commissioner of my college home league. If so, how do you draft differently there compared to best ball? I think in best ball in general, you need to be more like most best ball sites require you to start 3 wide receivers. So you should be building wide receiver heavy. Home leagues tend to value running backs a little bit more. And also, the softer your room, so this comes into mind for DraftKings maybe, I think the more you can get away with a running back early, because if they're going to give you Brian Thomas Jr. in the 80s, you can still build wide receiver strong rooms and get strong running backs. Where, like, in the beginning, I tried to just kind of like force it. FFPC is kind of like this too. All right, let's go with this guy doesn't qualify really as like a super high upside play. No, let's just do Cedric Tillman. He qualifies enough as upside. He's getting buzz. As the enough buzz that I moved him ahead of Elijah Moore. Because I think the idea is Amari Cooper outside, Cedric Tillman outside, and then Jerry Jeudy in the slot, and Elijah Moore goes to the bench. And if that plays out and the Browns are actually like good, that's upside. So, this was like one blurb, right? So like that could just not be true. Maybe that's not true. Maybe Judy's still outside. Maybe Moore's in the slot, but we like how the team turned out. Hurts and Purdy at QB, 2 great quarterback options. Bijan, Walker, Edwards, Ray Davis, Wright, and Will Shipley. 2 great to decent anchor options. Like Bijan could be RB1. Some great mid-round options. Some of these guys are drawing live to be zeros, but they offer upside. Ayuk, DJ Moore, Brian Thomas, Curtis Samuel, Cortland Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Slayton, Malik Washington, Cedric Tillman. So not the most high firepower top options, but ideally Moore and Ayuk go crazy. Brian Thomas scores 10 touchdowns, and then we get enough from the other 6. And then Pitts, Conklin, likely pretty great upside tight end room. I have no idea how to get back to this thing. If it rolls drafters, we're going to roll again. We're not doing drafters again. Wow. Total points type of day, guys. We're doing a marathon. This is good because I want to get in at least 100 marathons. Maybe I'll max. And I only have like, I always have to join on my phone. One more, by the way, for that marathon, and it's filled. Well, no, 2 more. 2 more. This is my 21st marathon. So, using my total points article, you know, the difference between this and drafters is this is half point PPR. It's 18 rounds. So I think in general, you should build 2 QB more and either 2 tight end more with the 2 extra less roster spots, or cut off an extra running back and or wide receiver. How many likes did we get? How did threatening the stream go? Not great. 60. We'll get there next time. All right, we pulled the 108. It's like a round where I just drafted from. What's not Isaiah Likely? Again, if you appreciate these free streams, please do like and subscribe. I'm on the road to 5K. Coming close. You clicked like twice, so it didn't go up. I think that's a one-time per customer type of thing. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. Westeros. Do you think this is like Game of Thrones, like Westeros, something like that? All right. I've not taken a lot of Breece Hall, and a big reason is I don't really love that he plays Buffalo week 17. I think that's like, when you look at some of the first round picks, it's kind of a negative matchup for him. Like Bijan plays Washington. That seems positive. Amon-Ra plays 49ers. You know, even if they're trailing, that seems fine. Jefferson plays Green Bay. That seems fine to good. Tyreek plays Cleveland. Okay, I don't love that one. Chase plays Denver. That seems fine to great. CeeDee Lamb plays Philly. That sounds great to fine. CMC plays Detroit. That sounds good to great. AJ Brown plays Dallas. That's actually really good for AJ Brown. He crushes man defense. Garrett Wilson plays Buffalo. I think I much prefer to target the Bills defense through Garrett Wilson than through Breece Hall. Puka Nacua plays Arizona. That sounds like a smash. Gibbs plays San Francisco. Not the best. Marvin Harrison Jr. plays the Rams. That sounds pretty good. So Breece playing Buffalo, like, it can get there. Definitely could get there. But let's go with Nico this time. But in a game where Josh drives the field, scores, that doesn't really scream run the ball. He killed Buffalo week 1 last year. Yeah, I don't know if you heard, but Aaron Rodgers tore his ACL that year in that game, or whatever injury he had, Achilles, whatever. I think it was Achilles. So they were trying to hide their quarterback and win through defense and running the ball. I don't think that's going to be their plan necessarily this year. And again, like things can like when you're playing, and also, I think we have different definitions of what killing is, because in PPR, this is killing Buffalo, by the way. 15.7 fantasy points. Wow. Boom. Did you win the tournament with that? No, you did not. RB11. Against Washington, he scored 43 points, who Bijan plays, by the way. So all that's to say that for the marathon, which is a total points contest, I don't care as much because he's not playing Buffalo week 17. I still do draft Breece occasionally in playoff ones because, of course, like good players can get there on any defense. But again, I think it's a negative game environment compared to a neutral opponent. I really don't think 15 fantasy points is killing. He had 127 rushing yards on 10 carries. Well, newsflash, you need touchdowns to go off. And I draft a lot of the Jets this year. This isn't me being like, oh, he's a Jet. Because I draft a lot of Conklin. I draft a lot of I draft Garrett Wilson quite a bit because I think Garrett Wilson, why couldn't Garrett Wilson be the wide receiver one? He kind of fits the bill of CeeDee Lamb. And the Bills run a lot of zone, which I think is Garrett Wilson could eat against zone. Wouldn't that be counterintuitive to being heavy on the Bills? Well, the Bills all cost you their quarterback goes in the 4th round. So I think the Bills playing the Jets defense week 17 is being way overbaked in by the market. And we've seen Josh Allen go off against elite defenses, including the Jets last year. And when you're taking a guy if you take Curtis Samuel or Khalil Shakir in the 9th or 10th round, you really don't need them to be the guy to win you week 17. Maybe they're the guy who beats Detroit. The Bills play New England too. Detroit and New England. 2 pretty plus matchups week 15, week 16. All right, let's shuffle these dudes. I like both. We're going to read the chat and shuffle. Kyren Williams, let's go. No, I think it's being overbaked in that the Bills play the Jets week 17. And even elite defenses, if they lose a player or two, they're now good to bad. I mean, I just really disagree with this. He could have easily had a touchdown. I'm just saying to fade him based on that matchup doesn't work. People did that with Jets Browns last year, and it was a high scoring game. Look, we're playing. I think good players think in probability mindsets. So, for example, a big reason why I won BBM2 is I was way over the field on Chris Carson and Rashad Penny due to them playing Detroit, who I thought was a bad defense week 17. I was right that year. You're not going to be right every year. You're not going to be right on every take. And again, I still do draft Brees occasionally, but in my opinion, it's a negative matchup. So I'm not going to just I think it's the wrong mindset to say anything can happen. I'm just going to draft. That's lame. I don't like Pittman, but extreme ADP discount correlates with Nico Collins in the division. So let's do it. So yeah, just because something could happen doesn't mean I'm not going to build teams mostly how I think. Right? Like Bijan playing Washington is enough alone to put him ahead of Brees for me. And I'm talking for the week 7. I'm talking for the playoff week ones. Week 17 doesn't matter that much in this contest. Yeah. Obviously, we're not talking about the total points one. We're talking about BBM5, the DK Millie, etc. I mean, this is a variance question, right? I think it is okay to fully fade anything. I fully faded Kelsey and Eckler last year because they were old, and I didn't think it was that likely that they beat me. Now, I think I got above expected return on that fade. Both were pretty terrible in the regular season at cost. Eckler was really bad, and even though Kelsey was around the tight end one in scoring, he was a really bad pick because you could get Laporta. That was an above average return on that fade, but I was comfortable making it. And that's just a variance question of whether you're willing to do that or not. Where do you get your ideas from? Me? It's all up here, brother. We just kind of rip it. Okay, so we're a little wide receiver weak, especially for Underdog, which is a little bit more of a wide receiver platform. No, I'm not saying Brees, the whole first round this year is young, except for Tyreek and CMC. Yeah, I guess we have to go Richardson here, right? We're getting the ADP gift on Pittman, who, by the way, he's not as big of an ADP gift as you would think because he is available in the 40s quite regularly. I don't draft him ever in the 3rd round just because I could see some other guys matching him, but I do think Richardson could be the QB1, so I might as well stack him when I get Pittman. All right, we're going to need to get a 3rd beer here. I think it's definitely harder on average to build the winning total points team with 2 running back picks through 5 rounds and a quarterback pick. But you're not trying to be average. You're trying to build the absolute nuts. So for this team, Brees Hall is the RB1. Kyren Williams is the RB2. Nico Collins is a top 5 wideout. Michael Pittman is a top 15 wideout. Richardson is the QB1. That's how we're building. We're building correctly. Now we got to make the rest work. Man, I made a thread on Hopkins not too long ago about how he was underpriced in the 80s, and I kind of regret doing that. But he's now in the 60s. I personally, let's shuffle these two. I think these two are fine. Hopkins could easily be his wide receiver, his team's wide receiver 1. Went with Hopkins. Let's go. Let's go to that tweet I put out. It was just kind of on the passing prop numbers and how DeAndre Hopkins literally has a higher receiving prop than Ridley, which again, receiving props, they are what they are. And it was how I thought Jordan Addison was overpriced. And this is not quite fair because this is baking in some of Sam Darnold starting the year. But Will Levis, if he hits in an outsized way, in my opinion. I think Calvin Ridley is probably like overpriced, in my opinion, but maybe he was really held back last year. And I think he is like, for this team, which grabs 2 running backs, Hopkins as your wide receiver 3 is a great piece. Because your hope is that he's like Mike Evans from last year, right? Like Baker wasn't that good. Baker threw for 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns. Okay, that is pretty good, honestly, for Baker. But we just need Will Levis to do that. 4,000, 25 touchdowns. All right, we forgot to grab our beer. We're going to do it next pick. Do you think it's a good thing when you look at teams you drafted a month or two ago and you can't build them anymore because ADP's pushed up on like half of your players? And do you stop drafting those players? Great follow-up question there, Chicken. I think it's unquestionably a good thing you have teams you cannot build anymore due to having unique ADP guys and ADP's rows. Do you stop drafting those players is a more difficult question. You heard me ask that with Jerome Ford, who went from the 130s to 110. To be honest with you, I've been burned in the past with that mindset on occasion where last year, the day the contest opened, I was drafting Nico Collins left, right, and center in the 150s. Then he climbed up to the 100s, and I was like, well, why draft Nico Collins? I got him in the 150s. And the way I was building teams was more wide receiver heavy, so I felt like I needed to be getting my running backs around them. Well, it turns out he was just an outright smash, and so, yeah, for this team, we got to roll the dice at wideout. Keon Coleman obviously is either going to like really disappoint, only 600-ish receiving yards, or be a big time, but that's fine. We're trying to win here. And he's getting cheaper. I was not drafting Keon Coleman ever in the 60s, but now when he gets to the 80s, it's like, let's do it. So do you stop drafting those players is difficult. I think the market is generally good at identifying running backs that should rise in value over time as the year goes on, and we should arguably chase those guys up. So like, if you're drafting a lot of Zach Moss right now, who's a guy I kind of like to hopefully be the goal line back in Cincinnati, and Moss gets buzz and climbs to the 60s, I really don't feel that is too much. The year I won BBM2, Darrell Henderson, or Cam Akers tore his ACL, or whatever injury he had, and Darrell Henderson, the backup, went from the 150s to the 6th round. That to me was too much. That was too big of a gap, right? I was out on Henderson. I said, if you need Henderson, there will be better teams in the playoffs that have him in the 150s. I'm not doing it. But if a player raises from like the 13th to the 11th, who cares? If a player raises from the 7th to the 5th, who cares, right? Like that's like not that big a difference. So it's a little bit more of a nuanced thing. But I hope that helped. I don't really get James Conner's ADP. Let's go Jaylen Warren, 3rd running back. I'm not a big Jameson Williams guy. Like I have been in the past. I've drafted a lot, so it's kind of ironic I'm not. But I think he's just getting too expensive as the likely 4th target of Detroit. Let me grab a beer. I haven't drank in a long time. I went to Vegas and didn't have a single drink. Do you have Keon over JSN? Yeah, I think that's logical, right? Like, I don't know. JSN's a tough eval because he broke his wrist last year. And so, like, was that a big contributing factor? But in general, JSN was bad last year, like, really pretty bad. And so I'm just of the mindset of, like, when players show you they're bad, we can listen sometimes. So I do draft JSN. He's more of a target in, like, the 8th, 9th. I don't get his, like, a 7th round ADP. That's a no for me. Because Keon, while Keon can be a disappointment, easily only like 600 yards. He could also be 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, right? Like, we know the upside if he becomes the number one. This is a great question, Jaden. We're going to pull it up here in a second. So I haven't drafted David Njoku once all year because I like Brock Bowers, I like Ferguson, I like literally all the tight ends above him a lot more, and he usually goes at the 8-9 turn. But for this team, I think it makes a lot of sense. He doesn't go at the 8-9 turn. He went at the back end of the 9th. And why I'm down on him a little bit, after drafting quite a bit 2 years ago, is he just had like weird production with Joe Flacco. And I really don't know what to do with the Joe Flacco part of the offense, where it was like total bullshit. And that's what I was huge on. The Texans will beat the Browns in the playoffs. I drafted 0 Browns players in the underdog playoff drafts. And people were like, oh, the Browns are the skeleton key. And I would watch the games and I'd be like, Joe Flacco is gambling like an MFer and winning. Like, he was throwing the tightest of throws. And Njoku became this like dump off option for him, which we really didn't see too much with Watson. So I don't know what we're going to get out of him. I do think he's good. But yeah, the Browns as a whole is just kind of weird. But I like the swing at tight end here at the 9th round, right? Like, when he goes next to Goddard, that's fine to me. Okay, let's go with Jacoby Myers this time. 8 touchdowns, probably an above expected year from him. He's dealing with 10 touchdowns, actually 2 rushing. He's dealing with Brock Bowers now, but maybe he just repeats it. Let's get to this question here. In general, for players only doing 10 to 20 Best Ball Mania teams, would you recommend still shooting for a diverse portfolio or taking stronger player stance? I mean, I don't really recommend naturally, like, generally. I'm not a big, like, you need to diversify your portfolio in general. Like, I mean, you do to a certain extent if you do 150 teams, and I do. But I'm 100% okay taking stands. The year I won BBM2, I had 60% Gabe Davis, who was going in the like 120s. I just thought it was a market inefficiency. So if ADP sticks out to you like that, where you're like, this guy is too cheap, go for it. I would also say it's kind of a risky way to build, but it can be argued that one good way to build is you have your core of guys. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 6 players. It's in different rounds. So like maybe you're like, I'm always Warren. I'm always Jaden Daniels. I'm always Jacoby Myers, whatever. The player names are not important, but you have a core of guys. And so you try to always get that core, and then you build around those. You build different game stacks around those. You build, this is a way to build. The guy that won the DK Millie the year I won, Felix, he claims that he built this way. He had a big He had a big core of players that just hit. So, I mean, if you think you've identified a bunch of players that are like really going to smash as a core, and you maybe want to build a Bill stack with that, you want to build a Chief stack with that, you want to build a Raven stack with that, I think that would be a fine way to build. If you're only doing 10 to 20, obviously you got to be okay returning $0. So yeah, don't diversify. Get your guys. If you are still an NFL fan of a team, build at least a couple teams with those, even if your team is, I don't know, the Patriots or whatever, who I like. Personally, still think Jason has so much talent. Yeah, and I don't want to be someone who just swings year to year reactionary, where like I drafted a lot of JSN last year, so I don't want that to cloud my bias and be like, oh, I drafted him, he sucked, let's not do it again. Which it could be argued I'm doing a little bit right now. But I have I'm someone who does high stakes drafts too, so I have a couple JSN shares in the high stakes, which can help equal it out a little bit. Of course, man, we root for you. I root for myself first. I hope I win Best Ball Mania. But Jaden, on your 10 to 20 entries, you can come in second, brother. What are we doing here? Let's go Josh Downs. Really lean into this Richardson stack. I think Downs is good, and that's what complicates Pittman as a pick. Disbanded Brotherhood, which I have no idea what that means. Doing his trademark period. And this guy asked, why do you do this in all the best ball stream drafts? So this is my trademark. I think he's just trying to, he's trying to help the content creators because just interacting is good. Can I come in third? It's yours, brother. It's yours. The Cowboys RB1 has an 11th plus 12th round ADP. How does one not draft one of the two every draft? I recommended that in my article, which honestly is one of the best articles I've written to date as far as like actually winning money, in my opinion. $99 for the year. If you do even $200 of best ball drafts, you'll get value from this. If you do even 100, but I wrote that in my article. I'm fine leaving every draft with one of Zeke or Rico Dowdle. And the only, to play devil's advocate, the only downside would be if they do trade for Khalil Herbert, they do sign someone, etc. So we got Richardson, Breece Hall, Kyren Williams, Jalen Warren, Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, Hopkins, Keon Coleman, Jacoby Myers, Josh Downs, and David Njoku. All right. This ADP is just wrong. So he's not stacked, but we're taking Justin Herbert as our QB2 in the 130s. Yes, I could have taken Will Levis. But other than that, I can't get anyone really that I want to stack. I guess I could get Watson, who we don't really want. I still think Herbert can produce as an elite. There are some late round stacking options I can go there. And I can comfortably stop at 2 QBs with Richardson and Herbert. I just think an ADP of 130 after Goff, after Tua, is just wrong. It's just wrong. Do you feel like people are looking for this year's Puka too early in the summer, seeing guys like Corley going? I don't think that Corley is a bad pick. I mean, this guy, I draft a lot of Corley. He went in the 3rd round, I believe. Let's check that. Yeah, he was the first pick of the third round. Puka Nacua was a 5th round pick. That's a world's difference. Third round picks are generally like fine gambles. You have a wide open depth chart. It's possible he is a 0 because of Xavier Gibson, but Mike Williams' health is a question mark. Like, I don't think Malachi Corley is like trying to Galbrain at all. And newsflash, there is no this year's Puka Nacua. That will not exist this year. I'm not really big on Eckler, but yeah, he was injured. I don't disagree. I prefer Brian Robinson straight up. I think he'll be like a 10 to 12 touch guy. You know, maybe 4 passes, 6 rushing attempts. And that is what it is. Corley equals Reed. I get that comp by you because Corley's supposed to be a yak guy. He's kind of like a bowling ball. You're this year's Puka Nacua? All right, let's look you up then, Brock. There's no Brocks that play wide receiver, brother. So I guess Brock Bowers or Brock Purdy. Chris Rodriguez for the win. Yeah, I mean, sure. He could complicate things. Again, please subscribe. Might be able to get the lights turned on if we get to 5K subscribers. Okay. Okay. I hate Quentin Johnston, so we're not doing it. But we are gonna. I don't usually draft Kamani Badal over some of these guys, but I am gonna do it here to correlate with Justin Herbert. Quentin, I guess we'll take if he's there next round, but please, someone bail me out. I'm like, look, okay, he's getting some positive talk where it's like Quentin is going to be used more around the line of scrimmage where he's better. Which like maybe is true, but like I mean, are we stoked about Quentin Johnston 5-yard slants? You know, and Kamani Vidal is a very risky pick. 6th round rookie could be an absolute 0. But J.K. Dobbins injured. Gus Edwards is what he is. So I get why the market's doing it. And yeah, Quentin. I don't know. I've just not drafted him a lot. Again, like unlike JSN, who you can at least convince yourself on, I really don't know how you convince yourself on Quentin. And I do want some of him because, like, okay, 1st round pick comes back from the dead. People are going to cite Davante Adams because Davante Adams had a bad rookie year, and so like that's just the guy we talk about. We're like, oh, Davante did it, but maybe Davante was special and Quentin's not, man. Josh Weil? Is he a tight end, right? Well, okay. I hate Chigakonkwo. Like I got Chigakonkwo buried in my rankings where he's undraftable. So sure. If another tight end emerges, let's do it. I think Luke Musgrave offers upside. We'll take him as our 2nd tight end. Looks like we might have to go 3 tight ends there. Being that both have a week 10 bye. I mean, it's not the biggest deal. We could definitely eat a 0 at tight end and still win. But in general, I'm going to add a 5th running back, especially with Kamani drawing live to be a 0. So 5th running back, let's say 3rd tight end, and then 2 more wideouts. And I think it could be argued that could work. Right? Like Nico, hopefully an every week guy. Michael Pittman, most weeks, if not him, at least Downs. Hopkins, most weeks. We get a bunch of weeks from Myers and Coleman. We have two running backs who could be top 5 in scoring. We have 2 QBs who could be top 10 or higher in scoring. We have 2 tight ends who could be top 10. This could work. What do you make of Daniel Jeremiah saying to take J.K. Dobbins? He has some connections to the Chargers because I believe he's one of their radio anchors for the games. I did see that. I'm not acting on that because, I mean, like, you kind of said it there, but he has a connection to the team. I don't know if that is necessarily, like he could just be doing, like maybe JK saw him and he was like, tell people to take me, bro. So I don't know. I'm going to act quick on J.K. Dobbins news if we get positive news. I really don't know how expensive he could get. If he did get super expensive, I would just fade him outright. But unfortunately, J.K. Dobbins is kind of in that, like, can you prove it to us type of sphere. And again, like, he has no guaranteed money. Greg Roman was his OC for the Ravens, so he could just be doing him a solid. The Chiefs decided not to sign him after he tried out. So, I don't know. I want to investigate that a little bit more, Brock. I think it's a good question. Right? Like, I do want to act on things when people have more information than me talk about it. But, I don't know. Currently, like, he could, like, for all we know, Daniel Jeremiah could just be saying something and hoping it sticks. Like, he could be looking at the step chart and being like, Gus Edwards is Gus Edwards. Kamani Vidal is a 6th-round rookie. And I don't know a bunch about Daniel Jeremiah as far as, like, is he, like, a great source, That's just me being honest. I don't know much about him. I mean, I would say the first 2 years I played best ball, where I won 3 best ball tournaments, I really didn't like pay attention to that type of reporting at all. It was all kind of just like me assessing the players, building what I thought were solid teams, and using game theory to win. But, I think it is an edge to add on. Sure. Cade Otton can be our 3rd tight end, 3rd and final. Kind of sticks out from the rest of this group. Jelani Woods would have been fun to tack on like a 4th Colt piece, but let's do Cade this time. Could Sutton be Mike Thomas 2.0? I don't know, man. Can Bo Nix be Drew Brees? As someone who didn't pay attention to Kyron last year, I'm trying to navigate how to use media and preseason information. Well, okay. To be clear, why I was in on Kyron really wasn't to do with that type of reporting. There wasn't really someone being like, draft this guy. For me, it was following the tea leaves. I did have a friend that went to Rams camp, and he said he was involved, and I was like, okay, that's enough. But more importantly to me, the team showed me. They benched Kyron for the preseason. So they thought he was valuable. And a big reason why I was in on Kyron is compared to other guys at his cost, I knew he wasn't a zero. Right? I just knew he wasn't a zero. I knew he was going to contribute. I kind of like Demarcus Robinson as an upside swing. Scored a bunch of touchdowns at the end of the year. Contingent value. You hope he's the wide receiver 3 at worst. Rams run a bunch of 11 personnel, which means 3 wide receivers on the field. So rooms for him to hit. Gonna end with 1 more running back and 1 more wide receiver. I was only drafting Kyren in August on Underdog, but you can't see my exposures to DraftKings and drafters. I did mix Kyren in 1 to 2 times on drafters and DraftKings, which is 20 rounds. So I actually did do that. And I drafted him in the preseason. He was on my preseason finals team. Or pre-draft. So he was on my big board's final team, you know? Well, not so fast, Brock, because now you got to think about how different coaches view it, right? Some coaches bench players who are going to get a lot of work, a la Sean McVay. Some coaches like to play their guys week 1 of the preseason just to get them a little bit of hits to get them ready for their season, a la Josh Jacobs. So there's a lot of nuance to dissecting preseason usage, which I will be breaking down in depth over at beatbestball.com. Let's go, brother. You talking about Underdog or DraftKings? Or drafters? Or beatbestball.com? I don't know which one you're talking about. That's a real bummer that DJ Chark just randomly gets taken. Would have taken him to go with Herbert. But oh well. I also think Hayden Hurst is draftable. Drafters? Good luck, man. Promo code Cheslium. You can also use promo code Cheslium on Underdog. What about Brendan Rice? Nah? Yeah, that's a nah for me currently. Like, I need to hear some buzz on him. I think it's like in a 20-round slate, maybe. But like there's guys who I can draft that I don't think are zeros and offer upside. So I mean, Brendan Rice offers upside if he's playing, but I mean, 7th round rookie, it's a bit thin, right? Like, would we even be talking about Brendan Rice if Puka Nacua didn't hit as a 5th round pick last year? I don't know. Brendan Rice is a never without Herbert, by the way. Like, with Herbert, you can justify the gamble a little bit. Let's shuffle these two. I kind of like these two to gamble on. I view them more similar than their ADP. What's it going to give us today? Thoughts on McMillan potential? He was one of my highest drafted guys for a while, and I kind of had to like cool off the market. But now looks like we ended up with Will Shipley. Good luck us. But yeah, McMillan was one of my highest drafted guys. He recently got one blurb, and that bumped him up. Like, Jalen McMillan looks smooth. Blah blah blah. And so now he's went in the 16th round in this draft. I think his upside as a third option is, I mean, Chris Godwin could lose a step, Mike Evans could lose a step. So pretty big upside if he just kind of like cements himself as the 2. Maybe it would require an injury to happen. Maybe the Bucks could be much worse than they were last year, and they traded away a guy like Godwin at the trade deadline. So I think he offers upside for sure. How about Malik Washington? Brother, we took him in the last draft. Clearly, you've not been watching. I think people are chasing a unicorn in Puka Nakua. Yeah, we won't get a Puka Nakua probably ever again. And that's fine. Yeah, but I mean, the Chargers could also like be near the league leaders and only 2 wide receivers on the field. If they're having like imagine if they're having like Will Shipley out there and Hayden Hurst. They're running a bunch of 12 personnel. They're running the rock. What about Trey Palmer? I'm not really drafting much of him. I kind of chosen McMillan over him, but it's not impossible that Palmer beats him out. Chase Claypool to go with Josh Allen. Okay, it's fine. Let's go Khalif Raymond. He makes my cut on the article of upside guys not being drafted often. And I mean, he's probably like the fifth target for Detroit from the jump. But if Amon-Ra gets injured, now he's like really climbing. Jameson Williams not really target dominant guy anyway. So I think this team is pretty good. Richardson, Herbert at QB, 2 high upside QB options. Breece Hall, Kyron, Warren, Kamani, Shipley. So 2 studs is the hope. Warren, you hope he smashes. And then Kamani and Shipley, 2 rolls of the dice. They're on good offenses. Kamani stacks with Herbert as well. Nico, Pittman, Hopkins, Coleman, Jacoby Myers, Josh Downs, Demarcus Robinson, Khalif Raymond. So a bit weaker than I usually like to build at wide receiver, but really need Coleman to be a hit. Really need Myers to have like a similar season last year. Need Downs to be a hit. And really need Robinson and Raymond to contribute as well. And then Njoku, Musgrave, Otten, a perfectly fine tight end room. Your Troy Franklin exposure is through the roof. Love smashing him late. I don't really love the Denver offense as a whole betting on them, but it could work. Definitely could work. Familiarity. All right, guys and girls. Appreciate you being here. Please do like and subscribe if you've appreciated this content. You can find all of my rankings over at beatbestball.com and dropping a new article tomorrow behind the paywall over there. Peace out. Enjoy your night.